we the board, should hire a monitoring team for the implementation of the items listed in the grand jury report. I sent out 3 resumes to have the board to look at those resumes to see what they thought, to see if they had any additional questions, or see if they had any additional individuals that they wanted to add to the team, or anyone that they wanted to add that had not been considered. The 3 names that were brought to me, or that were given to me, a recommendation by Commissioner Elps. One of them is one that I think a lot of people know. Is very well respected in the community as well in his profession. Mr. Morris Thigpen, also Mrs. Laura Cole, and Mr. Jesse Smith. These were the 3 names that were given to me to request that we use these individuals as part of this monitoring team that has a specific task, and they are supposed to have their first report done by November 1st. So the reason why I brought these names forward was because of the fact that time is of the essence, and we needed to go ahead and get someone on board. And so I'm going to ask the 2 individuals, I think all 3 of them might be here, Mr. Thigpen, Mr. Smith, and Mrs. Cole. If you're here, would you just please stand where the board members that may not be familiar with you could take a look at you. Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming in. Discussion. Supervisor Hunter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I reviewed those resumes, and they all look good. But however, I have another gentleman I want to submit for selection, Robert J. Bryant. And one of the things that I'm a little concerned with is that, you know, when you're doing an oversight of a facility of this magnitude, I really would like to have someone that kind of been in the system, that's been rehabilitated and made a new life for themselves, that can understand true life, what it's like to be incarcerated. Sometimes we do an overkill from the top down, but if no one have never lived a life and went through the system and have been rehabilitated, I think they can sit down and really talk to people and have a true feel of the needs on the inside of the institution. So I'd like to take a look at this now.
Okay. Questions or comments from any other board members? Supervisor Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I respect the direction superintendent's recommendations. Like Supervisor Hunter, I think Dr. Jimmy Baker should be a part of this monitoring team. I think that Cal State University must have a role in this. And there's no way that we can overlook Dr. Jimmy Baker and his expertise. I don't want to start getting a long list and getting over 1,000 names. I guess as I asked when we had the other section, the issue then turned to are we paying, is it volunteering, are they volunteering, or what? You know, I guess these are questions we need to have answered also. Are we using volunteers for this? Are we paying people? And, you know, what's going to be the final number? I thought at one time we were looking for 1 from each district. But I'm open to suggestions, but I think Dr. Jimmy Bell should be included. Thank you.
Okay. Well, to answer one question, they will be paid according to the information that we received from Judge Green. They will be paid. The names that were brought forward were just suggestions. I'm pretty sure that other board members may have other names. But as I stated before, time is of the essence. I am not opposed to adding any name that the other board members want to add, and we can choose from those particular names, or we can just pick from the individuals that have been submitted, whichever way you want to do it. It's the pleasure of the board. The report stated that a team of 3 However you want that 3 to look, it's totally left up to the board and board members. But if we are going to do this, then I think that we have another session in the morning. We can be prepared to vote or to look at other names by in the morning when we have our special session. These individuals will be paid on a contractual basis, and the contracts will be brought back in front of the board for the board approval once the legal team has looked over the contracts for the individuals that will be used to monitor the facility. So we're open for suggestions from any other board member. Dr. Walker?
Mr. President, I have no problem whatsoever with the 3 persons who have been identified here this morning. And I thought that we had a chance to offer additional names prior to this morning. However, I would agree that we take this up probably tomorrow morning, or whenever there's a contract, since it's going to involve finances, when there's a contract presented to us so that we'll know what it's going to cost us. And I think that would be the appropriate way to handle this. Let us know what it's going to cost us. I know we have to do it, but let us know on the front end what it's going to cost us, rather than name people and then come to what they're going to be paid later.
Yeah. Well, we have some preliminary numbers and figures, but there's really not a roadmap as to the amount of money that they are going to charge us at this particular point, other than for what the work that they do. So we can do this in the morning. We can talk about an executive session. We can offer additional names. We can vote on those particular names, doing it in the morning, and actually try to get them up and running as quickly as we possibly can. So I have no problem with doing
Okay,
that.
and maybe we can direct the county administrator to come up with a budget to present to us as we deliberate.
I have no problem with adding individuals or whatever the number wants to be, but the suggested number was that of number 3. I just wanted to bring those individuals in because I did not receive any other comments as of Friday, but I understand Supervisor Hunter did send one name in, and the name that he suggested. What we want is the best people to do this particular monitoring for the county and for the Board of Supervisors. So we will take this issue up in executive session in the morning where supervisors can offer additional comments and additional names for individuals that will be used for the monitoring team. Okay? I will continue under my name, and Ms. Calhoun, good.
Yes, I think as we continue our discussions, I don't think this board is quite ready to move forward in making selecting individuals. Several names have been recommended. Some resumes have been received and some resumes have not been received. I don't know if individual members would like to utilize also an interviewing process, but certainly I would like to talk with the recommended names that have been submitted, and I have not seen those names. I know this board wants to move forward expeditiously. However, I think that if we take at least another week and wait until our next board meeting before selecting 3 individuals, I think that will provide ample opportunity, again, for us to interview people as well as this board make an informed decision prior to selecting someone.
Okay. That's well noted. I think that if a supervisor would like to interview any or all of them, that's their prerogative, and I have no problem with that. However, I did get these names, and we sent the names to all supervisors earlier in the week for them to look over the names and to review their qualifications. And the only thinking behind this is that we have to move, and we have to move pretty quick as it relates to implementing some of the issues involved in the grand jury report. But your information is well taken, Supervisor Calhoun. Continue, please.
Yes, I was just saying that I have not seen the resumes of all of the individuals that have been submitted, and I would just like to have that opportunity to
Okay.
review them.
Thank you very much. All right, so what we'll do is we'll table this until in the morning, and we'll look at the additional names that have been submitted or will be submitted as it relates to the monitoring team and make a decision hopefully either in the morning or by the next board meeting. The next issue that I would like to discuss...
Mr. President, before we leave it, let me ask you. Now, and I know reading the report from Judge Green, do we have, and I don't know about legal department or who's going to put the parameters of everything that this monitoring team would do? I think we need to have some guidelines, and I know they're supposed to report back to us so often and everything. Now, how long are they going to be in place? And I know legal might draw that up also. I think we need to make sure we have all those questions asked and answered also for tomorrow. Thank you.
Right, and I agree with you. According to the report, they will be in place for at least a year because they're to provide, correct me if I'm wrong, Mrs. Davis, 3 or 4 reports every 3 months.
Every 3 months.
Every 3 months. And the legal team will be the person that will be drawing up the parameters and the duties that they will be performing while they're there.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Okay?
President.
Ms. Calhoun?
And could we have a central location where all these resumes will be forwarded, and that is to the county administrator, so that she can email those resumes out to us?
That'd be fine. Okay? All right, let's continue on with the board meeting under my name. Item number 4 has already been taken care of. And the next issue that I have under my name is the approval for the use of money out of the paving fund to pave Village Drive in District 1.
So moved.
Work to be performed by Hines County Public Works Department. It's been moved. Is there a second? It's been moved and properly second. Dr. Walker?
Question, is that $70,000 to come out of the bond money that was shifted from the bottom to the corridor?
Yes. Okay. Mrs. Calhoun?
I was going to ask the same question.
Okay. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to?
They,
Motion passes. The only other issue that I have under my name is request approval for $50,000 for playground equipment for Tougaloo Park.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second? It's been moved and properly second. Dr. Walker?
Mr. President, is that money to be taken from the $2.5 million removed from the bottom of the corridor?
Yes. Okay. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of? It's in District 1.
I think you know why I asked, because part of the typical area was annexed.
No, this is Tougaloo Park. We're going to. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to?
They,
Motion passes. That concludes the items under my name.
Mr. President, under item number 4 that was under your name there, Raymond Detention Center, and the camera know that's done. The Part C, and I don't know, we received calls that it may not be complete in terms of soap to be used to jam doors. Have we, and I know we haven't given the final check to the company that did the work, but I hope that we have someone to check, make sure that if we need to do some other things, we would do them. And secondly, have we paid all the bills at Part C? I guess Ms. Woods, all the invoices we received, have we paid them all? Okay, so we are paid up. And I guess that was my concern, the call I received concerning, even though they're saying Part C is complete, they're saying that the things that were going on can happen again.
Okay, Mr. Andrew Jenkins is supposed to be here this morning to give us an update as it relates to Pod C and moving forward with Pod A and B. I don't see him yet, but he was supposed to be here this morning to give us an update. And we'll have those questions answered by Mr. Jenkins when he comes in. He's our project director. Okay? Continuing with our printed agenda, we'll now go to the Honorable Mr. Alfonso Hunter of District 2.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm gonna take item 1 and change it around to be the last item to discuss.
Okay.
I requested that Mr. Earl Burks be here today from Hines County School to discuss an update on the 16th section and give us a more understanding of how the process works. Thank you, Mr. Burks, for being here.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Board, Mr. President, board members. Give me 1 second. I'm more than happy to.
If you would just state your name while you're waiting on your computer to boot up.
I am Earl Burke. I am the Chief Financial Officer and Director of Business Services for the Hines County School District. And I do appreciate, as well as Dr. Hanley, the opportunity to come before you today and talk about 16th section property. It's one of those things that we do work in tandem with you on to make sure that we get the best and highest return of and use of the property that's entrusted to us. I prepared for you a brief presentation. I think I have about 15 minutes, so I'm going to move expeditiously through this information. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me as I go through.
You go through the whole.
It goes pretty quickly. I just want to give you a pretty quick. It's not going to take that long. Trust me.
You might want to do a brief report because we could.
Yeah, you can read that. Well, basically, there are 108 school districts in the state of Mississippi that have the benefit of 16th section land. And for those people who don't understand what 16th section land, it is land that was put in trust to the state of Mississippi by a treaty done way before any of us were here. The land is in the trust of the state of Mississippi through the Secretary of State's office, who acts as the overseer, trustee for that property. Each school district, each of those 108 school districts, has the responsibility of managing the day-to-day operations of the 16th section property. 16th section property comes in many forms, particularly classifications would be agriculture, dedicated to catfish farming in those areas that do catfish farming, commercial development, farm residential, hunting and fishing, which is typically you see on forest, is only allowed on forestry land, industrial development, recreational, and residential development. The leasing of this property comes in 2 forms. The land that is hunting, fishing, agricultural, and for mineral cultivation, like gravel or natural gas or any oil or any of those things, has to be go through a competitive bid process. The school district cannot enter into any private negotiations on those things unless we've gone through a fully competitive process. That includes, and it's laid out in the state statute, we have to advertise, we have to run that ad, we have to give all of the potential bidders the opportunity to competitively bid the amount. All the other types of 16th section can be done by private negotiation or by application. So the person who wants to come and get a parcel of land to put their home on or to put their farm on, farm residential on, they can just come to the school board and say, we want to look at this piece of property and will you give us the opportunity to place our residence or our homestead on that property. Most leases, counter to what people still think, are less than 40 years. There are very few 99-year leases anymore. In Hines County School District, there are no 99-year leases. That was one of the first things 16 years ago when I became the Chief Financial Officer, that we worked very diligently to do away with this 99-year lease. Right now, leases, hunting and fishing leases have a maximum term of 5 years. Residential leases, because mortgage sometimes goes along with a residential lease. We issue those up to 40 years because mortgage companies will not go much shorter than that. Most of our developmental leases, if you live in the Terry area, you've seen that we've developed the Terry Park subdivision. That started out as a 5-year developmental lease with a developer that has now become about 80 homesteads in the Terry area. We also have in that area other examples of developmental leases. There are almost the entire town of Terry, the entire town of Utica, a good bit of Raymond sit on 16 section property. We have to work in tandem with those city governments to make sure that the highest and best use of that property is achieved while maintaining the integrity of those communities. So we work particularly with the town of Terry because our school is there. We have their residential development there. We now have a post office, a library, several storage facilities, a lot of commercial development on that property, which brings ad valorem taxes to Hinds County School District and to the county in its entirety. Timber is another big producer on 16th section. A lot of our strategy related to our 16th section in areas that are not inside incorporated townships or cities is centered around timber. Timber is easy. Timber doesn't talk back. Timber doesn't get mad at its neighbors. Timber just grows, and then we harvest it and make money for the school district. While the beauty of timber also is that while we're cultivating that timber, we can also use that same piece of property and let it for hunting and fishing. Hunting and fishing is a big deal in Mississippi. We get in our district, we get some great returns for hunting and fishing, so we try to make the best use of our land for that. The other major area would be mineral development. There are a lot of 16 section parcels around our state that have oil, natural gas, those things. We have one or two that formerly were producing in our school district. They've since dropped off, so the revenue from those things is not as lucrative as it once was. But they still do exist, and we do still let certain people who want to come in and explore, they can come and explore on any piece of 16th section we have if they have an interest to do so. Another thing I'd like to clear up about 16th section, once the property is leased, of course it's in our hands as long as it's not leased. We don't pay taxes to the county for that property. We don't pay taxes because we're tax exempt. The beauty of this is we try to get it leased because once it is leased, that property does become tax. It goes on the tax rolls in the name of the person who leases it. They not only pay a lease amount to the school district, they also pay an amount to the board of supervisors, to the tax collector, for the opportunity to lease that property. So I will say this in closing: we have managed about 200 leases for the school district, varying sizes. The lease payments range anywhere from $10 to close to $50,000, depending on what the type of lease is. Our annual rents and lease amounts contribute to our annual budget about a little under 1% of our annual budget, which is at this point about $69 million. So somewhere in between $550,000 to $650,000 we receive annually in rents and leases. That money is used to help maintain our buildings so that we don't have to raise ad valorem taxes in any other way. Go for partnership things that we do, work with the Board of Supervisors and the Public Works Department to pave our parking lots, redo bus turnarounds, those things. That's where we are able to reimburse the county for those cooperative efforts. We also pay the management fees associated with this. One of the things about the management fees we pay about 13% of what we collect in management fees because this is handled in my office and I have a very small office. So I have a person that we contract with to manage our 16th section property on a day-to-day basis. We also work with the Forestry Commission on the hunting and fishing. Now, one of the questions I will answer, Board of Supervisors have been a great partner on our 16th section. You come into play typically on those things that don't deal with competitive bidding. That's why sometimes you see things come on your board agenda related to 16th section property. Anything that comes up that doesn't require a competitive bid, any of those classifications that don't require a competitive bid, you have the fiduciary responsibility and the legal responsibility according to Statute 29, which I gave you a copy. I can't remember what the last part of it is, to make sure that fair market value and a fair price is being obtained for those properties. That's why we sent it to you. That's why we want you to see it, because in that law, you have the right to say, we disagree with the value that you assigned to this property. If that ever does occur, and it has never happened in the 16 years I've been in, because we try to make every effort to get the best possible appraised value. But if ever it does come up, there's a 20-day period of time when you have the opportunity to say, we disagree, we get together, we hire an appraiser, you hire an appraiser, or pick an appraiser. Those two appraisers get together, they pick a third appraiser, they appraise it, and whatever that value is, that's the value we will work to assign to that property. So that's the part that you sort of play in the 16 section process. We try to make this a partnership. I know the board president, I think in the past, has been able to sign some of the leases. The reason why we wanted that agreement, because a lot of times with the homeowner, related to things with people buying homes, we've all bought a home. We know that sometimes those closings come down to the wire. The bureaucracy of our process of going through the school board and coming to the board of supervisors puts in jeopardy a lot of times that homeowner's opportunity to move on to 16th section property. So we try to make that process as easy as possible by doing as much legwork up front before that lease gets to my board and then comes to you, so that you feel comfortable in signing it, that my board feels comfortable in signing it, so that we can get this homeowner in that home and we can get this person, that piece of property, producing ad valorem taxes for our school system. So that in a nutshell, the 16th section property. If you have any questions that I didn't cover, I put the 12 most frequently asked questions in that document that you have, but if there are any other questions that you have, I'd be more than happy to answer those.
Supervisor Hunter, then Supervisor Stokes.
What is the listing of available, when the property become available for lease?
Where is it listed?
Yeah.
You can go to our district website, which will take you to the Secretary of State's website. The Secretary of State, Deborah Husband, has done a tremendous job in assisting school districts with listing property that's available. Their website keeps a ledger of all property that's available in every county in the state of Mississippi. It is an easily searchable website. If you have difficulty getting internet access, you can call my office. My assistant will help you track down whatever area you're trying to find and point you in the right direction.
Supervisor Stokes.
Thank you. Mr. Burt, situation occurred. Superior Fraser lived to be 100 plus years young.
Yes, sir, I know, Mr. Brady.
And then the family knew that they owned this property. They brought it, I think, from Broadwater. I think they named the street out there from Broadwater. Then as he gets older in life, and his children come in from California trying to handle his business, then they said 16th section land. Now, out of one or two things happened. Either Broadwater had it at 16th section land and sold it to him illegally, or somebody took this old man's property. Now, what safeguards do we have to make sure that someone who's leasing 16th section land can't sell it? That's the first concern I have. And secondly, what do we do to make sure that what happened to Mr. Pearl Fraser and his family will not and cannot happen again in Hines County?
Let me take the first part of that question. I met Mr. Pearl Fraser 16 years ago when I became the Chief Financial Officer in Hines County School District, and we became aware, I think they were aware before I got there, and I know they had some legal assistance trying to clarify some of these things. There was something unscrupulous done way back, where somebody leased 16th section property, and they went out and presented it and sold it as if it was property that could be sold. Irregardless of that, the statute is clear. You cannot sell 16th section property. I can't speak to what the district did before I came into the district. All I know is through Mr. Fraser's end of his life, from the moment I met him to the end of his life, we worked with him and his family to make sure he stayed on that property, because he did have the belief that his family did own that property. I think he was born there, and it had been there in his family a long time. I've since talked to his sister, and we work with his sister, and we're trying to work with the city of Utica to do something in commemoration of Mr. Fraser's life. But unfortunately, there's not very much I can do, or the school district can do, to alleviate what was misportrayed by a third party. Now, in the future, all leases are closely monitored in my office. We make sure we know, we vet everybody who leases 16th section property, especially in a large quantity for any sort of developmental purposes. Our leases now say you can't sublet, You can't, without letting our board know and have the opportunity to vet that subletting, so that we put in some stopgaps to try to contain this. But again, it's like anything else. I mean, a person who misrepresents, I mean, we just have to monitor to make sure that the people who are leasing have a way to get to us and tell us about anything that they suspect might be untoward or anything like that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President.
Any other questions from any other supervisors? Dr. Walker?
Quick minute. How many acres are currently under lease in Hinds County?
We have 16 sections in the confines of the Hinds County School District. That is somewhere around a little under 11,000 acres. Of that, I would dare say almost 80% of it is leased. There's some that just falls through the cracks, and we're continually trying to get it leased. A lot of times, the toughest part is hunting and fishing. People don't want to pay the amounts that we set forth. So there's a stopgap. There's a gap in there sometimes in the leasing, because typically this process takes about 90 days for a person to lease it. If it ever falls, particularly in hunting, hunters are very sensitive to the hunting season. They don't want to be bothered with it if it doesn't start exactly at hunting season and end exactly on the hunting season. So we've had some leases in the past that had dates that didn't quite correspond, but I would say about 80 to 85% of our land is leased right now. We're working very hard to make it 100%.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Mr. Burris, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
We appreciate that information. Supervisor Hunter, continue.
Mr. President, the next item I have is a presentation by Mr. Clark and on waste grid, from waste grid. We're going to allow him about 2 minutes, and Mr. Burris took a little more time.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
Thank you for the 2 minutes, sir. I appreciate Mr. Hunter's efforts to bring this in front of the board. But I'd like to take about a minute of that just to give you a little background in terms of our presentation as it pertains to waste to energy. Waste Grid, I am the managing member of a company called Waste Grid, and we're in partnership. We have a co-development relationship with a technology company called Hoskins. And Hoskins is a waste to energy technology that's been in existence for about 45 years now. Now, what we are a alternative to landfill issues. Our primary focus, which I passed on, hopefully a document that may have reached the board previously, just to kind of address what the primary concerns right now that deal with landfill issues. One is the creating an unpredictable cost escalations and environmental concerns that the cities and communities are involved in. Inadequate space availability is another major issue that landfills are right now running into. Service fees increase from the county landfill owners based upon the attempts to cover unfunded costs of the individual solid waste funds, decline in revenues, and city customers shop for services in competing landfills. You're also having challenges right now in the landfill world attempting to maintain the compliance with environmental laws that tend to be centered around the rising costs due to litigations and allegations right now of violations of environmental issues concerning landfills. An alternative to the high potentially increasing landfill costs is disposal to waste energy. And we are a base load, non-interruptible waste energy producer. We produce facilities. We have a facility currently that's under construction. Can't see it right now, but this is a facility that we currently have in construction in the Glendale, Arizona area. That's already met all of the Title V clearances, and this is the 5th generation of technology that's currently underway. Now, one thing that I would like to mention is that I was looking at the landfills here in the region, in the particular region. I know the one in Dixie, I was just noticing here in your annual study that it has a lifespan of about another 16 years. This type of technology now we can put about a multiplier of about 10 to 15 years on top of the 10 times, not 10 to 15 years, 10 times the life expectancy of the landfills as they currently exist. And the uniqueness of our technology is that it doesn't require any funding from you guys. The county doesn't have to put any money into this project. We're able to fund ourselves and finance the entire project by producing the type of contracts. All we ask from the county and the city, we've been in conversation now with the city, is the trash. We need the waste stream. And once the waste stream comes into the facilities, we're able to take the contracts and begin to finance it ourselves. So that, just because of the time, I'll kind of close with the two primary concerns. One, there are financial benefits that we can also offer participation in for this type of project, revenue sharing that comes from the project of this nature. Second thing that we're able to do is we're able to provide benefits from the taxes, the taxing of from, of course, property taxes, as well as personal property taxes. We anticipate about $150 million that we would insert into the community from jobs. This project takes about 2 years to develop from the beginning to the end, and we feel that we can do that in roughly about a 2-year time span, over a 2-year time span. So what I'll do is the basic facility will produce somewhere between 50 to 70 jobs that we will be able to provide for the local community as well, outside of the development of the developmental process. In the developmental phase of it, we anticipate about 8 jobs per $1 million that we spend. And so this last project that we just completed, we're working on right now in Glendale, is about a $170 million project. So we think there's quite a bit of an upside for this process here in the region. And so we've been in concert with the city of Jackson right now, having conversations as to the process, and we wanted to bring it. And of course, Mr. Hunter allowed me to share this opportunity with him as well. And so we think it would be a fantastic opportunity.
Okay. Questions or comments from the board? Mr. McDougall, thank you very much for your presentation this morning. Have you been in contact with anyone else from Hinds County, like the Economic Development?
We've been speaking right now with the Department of Public Works. We have slated also Vicksburg and the Hattiesburg region for this type of technology as well. There are 2 additional areas in the district, in the Mississippi District 2 region that we wanted to begin this conversation with. But we started in the Jackson city, and that's been our primary focus, and then to expand from Jackson.
Okay, if you would you get your information to our county administrator so we can get that information to our Economic Development Authority as well?
Absolutely. Yes.
And thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Right. Supervisor Hunter?
Mr. President, the next item I have on my agenda is a resolution to increase Hinds County minority participation goal to 30% in or a percentage of the county makeup. As I review projects that we have ongoing, such as the contract with the detention center, the amount of participation was somewhat dismal. It was less than 10%. And I think we need to come up with a more concerted effort to increase that, and especially dealing with the women population of Hinds County.
Okay.
So,
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and properly seconded that we increase minority participation to a goal of 30%. Questions?
I would like to amend that to a minimum.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Taberson, if you have something that you want to state as it relates to this issue. We have a motion and a second that is amended to be a minimum. Okay. Okay, is that okay with you on your original motion? Okay. Board Attorney, Mr. Taberson.
Good morning, Board. I think this is a laudable goal, and I think it can be done legally. But I would caution before I vote this morning that I think we need to have sufficient data placed in the minutes and into the record to support this. That data would include the population demographics of Hinds County, and also data with respect to minority and women businesses in Hinds County. That data is available. I know the city of Jackson uses that data, as does the state of Mississippi. And I would suggest, if at all possible, to table this matter until the next meeting so that we can put sufficient supporting data into this so that no one accuses the board of acting in an arbitrary and capricious manner, and that we've dotted our I's and crossed our T's. Again, I think overall this is laudable and it can be achieved. We just want to make sure that we do it properly. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Supervisor Stokes.
Thank you, Peter.
Yes, sir.
We only put it as a resolution now. Can we maybe bring it back, we pass the resolution showing good intent, and then we'll bring it back to this meeting as an order, and you can put all the
Yes, sir.
weigh-ins in there.
You can certainly pass it as a resolution today. My assumption is that, as with other such programs and other governmental entities, that you will eventually want to put some teeth in this, so to speak. And so I certainly can support a resolution today and tell you that's legally proper. And then I would encourage you to actually take that next step, put the data that's necessary into the record so that you have something that could withstand scrutiny and allow you to again have the teeth as you move forward.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. It's been moved and properly seconded. All comments will be stated and accepted. All in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes. Mr. Texon will bring this back at the next board meeting, and I'd like to commend Supervisor Hunter for bringing this to the board. It's one of the things that I think is a very lofty goal for this entire board, to increase participation of minorities and women for the entire county as well. So thank you very much for bringing that. Continue, please.
The next item I have, Mr. President, is to approve to give $10,000 to the Boys Baseball Association, Inc., for the purpose of assisting upgrade to Grove Park.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Supervisor Walker.
Mr. President, is this to come from the money moved from the bottom of Clinton Carter?
Yes.
No,
Oh, it's not?
it don't come from the general fund.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. If I may, Mr. President?
Yes.
We reviewed the item for Supervisor Hunter, and from my understanding, Mr. Hunter would like to provide a funding agreement with this organization as opposed to utilizing the recreation funds.
Okay.
That is my understanding. Is that correct, Mr. Hunter?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. You need to finish, Dr. Walker, and then we'll go to Supervisor Gallo.
It's a funding agreement with Grove Park.
No, with Baseball Association.
The Baseball Association.
All right. Mrs. Gallo.
Has this matter gone before our legal department?
I'm not sure.
Letter to who? Or to whom?
Is it the matter?
The matter.
No.
Not that I know of.
And I'm going to mention another.
Okay, continue, please.
I'll let the attorney address the matter, but go ahead, or I can go ahead.
Peter Tableson, Board Attorney. In a general sense, we're aware of this item, and there is a way to allow for this donation. I will say that, echoing comments that were made earlier this morning, I will, and I'll address this in closed session, we will be making some recommendations to change how matters are placed on the agenda to make sure that they're vetted through the legal department first. And also, I think, having known Ms. Carr for a number of years, I would echo her comments from earlier this morning that I think you'll see an increase in cooperation between your legal team and the Chancellor's Clerk's office so that these questions won't arise in the future. With respect to this specific item, you can vote to approve it today, and I will assure you that the $10,000 will not be given to anyone who does not qualify under statute, and it will not be provided in any such way. But again, we have to bring a separate document back to do this, and that begs the question of whether these documents should be on the front end or the back end, and that's something we need to discuss internally.
Okay.
I have another concern.
Okay.
By the budget close of the year 2014, we're going to be running a deficit of approximately how many dollars, Ms. Willis?
But in terms of our situation, we will have those funds set aside for a particular purpose. That's what we're looking at in the funds that we have at the end of the year set aside for.
What was the deficit?
We don't have it in terms of a deficit amount.
What was the, the $1 million and something dollar amount.
Okay, do you not, so she's asking, is there a deficit that you can, a number that you can give?
One of our worksheets where we were looking at funding necessary for the jail.
That's right.
Okay.
And I think that's what we come up with, that
Exactly.
1 million plus deficit.
Okay. Any additional comments, Ms. Calhoun?
No.
Okay. All right, Dr. Walker?
One of the things I wanted to state is that we support totally additional recreational opportunities here in Hinds County. You know, there's a shortage, and we've recommended that there is appointed a countywide recreation commission. The objection to some items that have come before this board is that they are designed to remove money that's already been approved from the Byron Clinton corridor. And at some point, this board has to face up to the fact that we're going to have to be more creative in budgeting and seeking additional revenues to run the operation of the county. That's the primary point, is that there were monies that were removed, $3.5 million from the bond monies that were designed to help with the Byron Clinton corridor. And some of the recommendations are coming out of that money, and there's an objection on my part at least to that.
Okay. Thank you very much, Supervisor Calhoun.
In addition, I think we would be acting irresponsibly to continue to just remove funds from our working cash balance when we have all of these emergency needs that we're going to have to freight the cost of. For example, we still have not come up with the funding source to repair our jails. That's pods A and B. We have chillers to replace. Even at the detention center, we have, I believe it's the detention center, the females detention center. We're going to have to replace an elevator. We have all of these priority items that this board has not looked at providing funds for. Now, I'm a number one supporter of all of the communities, and I would love for this board to be in a position to give the Boys Baseball Association $10,000, to give the other associations $10,000, whether it be football, soccer teams. Our communities have a number of needs. But this board, when we took the oath of office, we took the oath of office to primarily serve two responsibilities. One, to become fiscal managers of the county's funds. And two, to develop policy for all of Hinds County government. The statute set for certain duties and responsibilities that are that we are legally required to do or carry out. And the fact that we serve all of Hinds County, we are now becoming too specific in pulling out little groups, a little group here, a group there, a group over there, and everywhere. And that's not our primary responsibility. As I said, I would love to see us fund, in which I'm sure the vote will be there, to fund the Boys Baseball Association. And again, I'm not against funding that group. I just feel that we should set our priorities in funding. We have established a budget. We do have some available cash flow funds, but we are also very cognizant of the fact that there are other priority needs that this board has not given any consideration to funding. And those needs are mandated by law. You don't have enough funds to give everybody a piece of the pie.
Supervisor Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I second the motion simply because I look at BBA, Boys Baseball Association, as crime prevention. It's been around saving young people for a long, long time. When I was growing up, I was bad as they could be. But for people like Coach Clay and Coach Lee, going big out in, gave me a chance to play baseball, stay out of trouble, and stay on the right road. I had opportunity to go to law school and finish law school because of these kind of people. Now, in terms of Byron Clinton Parkway, we never let a gun for Byron Clinton Parkway. It will never be completely built. Once you build those segments and the money is gone, it's just going to be a big, excuse me, a big hill or barrier put up. Now, we got money that can be used to do things to help this county now. And some of those things we can do is repair at the jail. The repairs got to be made at the jail. We can do that. We can help young people like they're trying to do with recreation. You keep these young people out of trouble through things like recreation. Now, we can sit back and make excuses and keep putting money in the jail because you have to lock them up. Or you can do like this young man is trying to do. Get with the BBA, the Boys Baseball Association, or like Supervisor Graham tried to do, help with the parks. You know, a lot of these parks, they run down, but they right here in Hinds County, and they in Jackson. And we got to do things to make people feel like, yes, I have a good park. I don't have to go to Clinton to a park. I don't have to go to Madison County to a park. I don't have to go to Rankin County to a park. They're spending money at home. And to hear these things said about why we shouldn't do it, but I support these young people, well, you know, with friends like that, who need enemies? If you support the young people, vote to help them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Stokes. Mrs. Scallon, they will vote.
No comment, Mr. President. As I said earlier, I fully support all of our community associations.
Okay.
Whatever. I support the associations, but I also know what my primary role here as supervisor of Hinds County. And also I recognize what our legal mandates are, our legal mandates. And we're going to have to move forward in defraying the cost of the judge's court order. Here again, we don't have sufficient funds to even carry out the responsibilities of the court order. And I'm just putting things in order and setting a priority.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to?
Nay.
These funds are not coming from,
The fund, it's general fund.
they're coming from general funds.
Your vote. Hold 1 second. Your vote.
If they come from general funds, I can vote to support that. However, I do so with the warning that if we continue to do these alternative approaches, that we talk about the federal government and the current furloughs, we're going to have furloughs here in this county because our financial situation is just that weak.
Okay. It's been moved. It's been voted upon. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Mr. Walker, Stephen Hunter, go ahead and continue.
Mr. President, my next item I have on the agenda is to, excuse me, to go ahead and give administer the town of Edwards $80,000 for the repair of the community center, which was approved in 2014 budget. This money will be coming from the 2007 bond fund.
Okay. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to?
Nay.
Motion passes.
I want to congratulate the town of Edwards. They can move the trash can out of the certain area of the community center. And good luck. Mr. President, the next item I have.
Hold 1 second. Ms. Callen, did you have another comment?
2007 bond funds. Do you-
2010.
Okay, 'cause excuse me, I don't think we have anything left in 2007 bond funds.
Okay. That motion passes. Supervisor Hunter, continue.
The next item I have is to administer public works $62,000 for the resurfacing of John F. Kennedy and Presidential Hill Drive.
Okay. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes. All right, Supervisor Hunter, continue.
Mr. President, I want to go back to the first item. The first item is a very dear item to me. It's a resolution of appreciation to all county employees. And the reason it is so dear to me is that my mother was a lifelong employee of Hines County. And she was a cook for over 35 years. I can recall when she got her very first big job. It was a job at a place in Edwards called SCI, Southern Christian Institute. Her job was to cook for the Freedom Riders. And I can recall a very chilling moment that she came home and had a lot of joy about was that all the ladies in the kitchen told her that her to be that preacher really enjoyed your chicken you cooked at the Institute. Only later to find out that preacher was Martin Luther King that came down to visit the Freedom Riders. She moved on to Mississippi College as a cook, where she later sent her daughter to become a registered nurse. My sister serves as a chief nurse for Humana now. Her next big job was when she got a job at Hines County School as a pot washer. As a student growing up, watching her go out the back door, taking garbage and stuff to the dumpster. The only time she ever got a pay raise was a minimum wage when the governor gave her a raise. So the reason this resolution is so important to me, to have my mother passed a few months ago. She never received a service penny, but because of her low-paying job, I'm able today to sit here as a Board of Supervisor member and appreciate the 800 people of Hines County on the hard work and their dedication that they do for this county every day. Also, in this resolution, I want the Board of Supervisors to give themselves a pat on the back. Because during the time of furlough, we're able, in the roughest time, to give our people appreciation and $100 across the board. I ask Ms. Davis to read this resolution today. Thank you.
All right. Mrs. Davis.
Mr. President.
I would love to second. We're going to fight for this.
Oh, okay.
A second. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. The resolution reads as follows. The Board of Supervisors of Hines County, Mississippi wants to appreciate its employees. Whereas the employees deserve recognition and thanks for their dedication to Hines County, to the Hines County community. And whereas the employees of Hines County are second to none in their knowledge, skills, and dedication to serving the community and should be publicly recognized. And whereas the Hines County employees fill many roles from road and bridge maintenance to administrative assistance, from community patrol to court reporting. And whereas the Board of Supervisors extends its utmost appreciation and respect for the work of each employee and understands the scope of the contributions made by the employees in whatever role during the 2012-2013 fiscal year. And whereas the Board of Supervisors recognizes that the employees play a vital role in providing quality programs and delivering critical services to the Hinds County community in a cost-effective manner. And whereas the Hinds County Hinds County has dedicated staff committed to public service, particularly during some of our most challenging times. And therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors shows its deep appreciation by approving a $100 across-the-board increase for all county employees, and be it further resolved in making this declaration, the Board expresses its sincere appreciation to all employees for their professionalism and commitment to the belief that public service is rewarding and essential to the future of our community, state, and country.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes. Mrs. Davis, if you would make sure that it's posted on the Hinds County website, please.
Yes, sir.
Supervisor Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we're so honored to have the Mayor of Edwards, Mayor Perkins here with us. Raise your hand, Mr. Mayor, and everybody know this alderman. We call him Dr. Dirt, Leon Goldsberry. Raise your hand, Alderman at large, and the attorney for him, Howard Brown. Ask them to come back. They so humble until they would just leave out, just let them know that, you know, they were just glad to be here, but we want to let them know we appreciate them being here.
Thank you.
Dr. Derby in the back getting younger and younger, but I feel like I'm the one getting older. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. All right, Supervisor Hunter.
Let's complete the rate. Well, I got two other items on. One of the items I have on under the other item, other business is discussing the E911 communication discussing. What I want to look into in this matter, Mr. President, is to see can the CMRS board contribute additional funds for the possible upgrade to the the existing communication system.
Tower upgrade.
Right. The upgrades on those towers. And I was looking for legal. I want this item to go to legal.
He just stepped out. Some of me, Ms. Banks and Mr. Salmon here. You can just step out.
Okay.
Mr. President.
One second, let me let it finish, and then we'll come to you.
And, well, the next item.
Before we finish it, I think we have some questions on the first item.
Okay.
First of all, I'd just like to say before we go to Dr. Walker that I'm totally in support of that. The CMRS board has been an issue with not only the Board of Supervisors in Hinds County, but they've been an issue for the entire organization. The minority caucus of the Hinds County, the state of Mississippi, and we've had some very difficult times getting our voices heard through the CMRS board. I tried to do it in a couple of legislative sessions and did not get anywhere, but it's one of the things that I think really needs to be looked at. I've talked with Greta several times about this, and we know the amount of money that's still in that particular fund, several $1 million that should be distributed to all counties in the state of Mississippi equally, but right now it's not being distributed at all. Dr. Walker.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Regarding the question that was posed for legal, it's altogether possible that what is requested is legal, but it may be impractical or impossible based on the availability of funds. So actually there's a two-pronged question. One, is it legal? And two, is the money there to do it?
Most definitely. I can answer that myself. I've been intimately involved with the CMRS board for about 5 years. And last check, there was around $22 million that had not been spent, that had not been distributed to the counties. This is a fight that the organization as a whole has taken up, as well as the minority caucus has taken up, to try to get this money reallocated to the boards, to the supervisors in all 82 counties. But as of right now, they have a very large lobbying effort going on in front of the legislature, which has prevented us from doing so in the past. So I know that the money is there. We've tried to get the money. We even tried to get 1%, and they would not give a budge on that 1%. Supervisor Stokes, then Supervisor Hunter.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, when you think about this mobile radio system, even the CMRS funds, over the years, you look for everybody on this board shares some expertise in different areas. Supervisor Hunter is considered an expert in my mind when it comes to building and construction, those things. When it comes to radio systems, you worked with them for a number of years from the city, and you know how this works. So I've always considered listening to experts in these particular areas. And I share the concern that we can get some of this money for all the counties. Here we need to try. Can't anything fail but a try. And so I'll be glad to. I hope that legal will look at it. I know the legal department we have, they'll be able to investigate what can and can't be done, and they'll let us know what can be done and what can't be done. Thank y'all so much. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you very much. Supervisor Hunter, do you want a motion on that we...
Yes, I have a motion to get legal to review.
Okay.
The
We don't need a motion to get them to review. We can just ask them to go ahead and review and look into the CMRS board. I know that Porter Bingham is here. He's also been looking into that. And it is a tremendous amount of money that you would do every county in the state of Mississippi a favor if you can figure out a way that we can get this money redistributed to the counties, because it's money that's actually being collected by the counties that's not going to the county or the counties. Am I correct, Brett?
It is money to pay for the wireless system throughout the state of Mississippi.
Right, okay. And to build towers, but there are no towers being built. So, I mean, go figure. Thank you very much. So we'll just give that information to the legal team. Continue, please.
The next item I have, Mr. President, is the Motorola's proposal. To accept and review and accept for the upgrade pending on legal review and availability of funds. And my concern is, I know we, a couple of meetings ago, we've been stressing about reducing and getting rid of some contracts and downsizing. And when I look at the maintenance contract that we have on this system, the amount of money that we spending to maintain the system, it looked like that we could buy a system, probably get a new system. The maintenance amount is enormous. And if you spend that much money on an old car, which continues, every month you spend as much as a car note, a car payment, at the end of the day, you still have an old car. So I want us to take a look at this proposal and see, because I'm thinking if we probably upgrade the system to a new system, we probably could have funds. The maintenance costs would go down tremendously. So we'd be able to pay for a new system.
Okay. Supervisor Calhoun.
And I asked Motorola representative to be here and kind of expand on it a little bit today.
Okay. Would you like to come forward?
He can come forward.
Okay. Supervisor, you will come forward. Supervisor Calhoun.
Yes, whereas I agree we do need to move forward in purchasing a new communication system. However, if this board agrees to accept the proposal offered by Motorola, then we would be violating the statute by omitting the RFP, the request for proposal process. Purchasing a communication system would not be considered a professional service contract. We're looking at equipment, etc. So we would need to request for proposal so that we would allow other communication companies the opportunity to bid or submit a proposal.
Okay, I don't think it would be illegal because what they're suggesting is not an RFP process, it's an upgrade with the original system that we have. So therefore, we can let the attorneys determine whether or not it's going to be legal or illegal, but I don't think anyone's going to do anything knowingly illegal. But if the upgrade is what I think that they're proposing, and I think it's something that we really need to look into, we'll allow them to talk and then we'll come back to the board for additional comments.
Mr. President, even I would like to hear from the board attorney.
Okay, well, let's let them speak right now, and then we'll get the board attorney back up. But I want to hear what their proposal is before we can intelligently talk about it.
Even with an upgrade, this board should move forward in getting different price quotes so that we can look at the best and the most reasonable cost for the upgrade.
All right. Good morning, gentlemen. If you would just state your name.
Stan Unruh, and
I'm Ron Handy.
our role in this, I'm the area manager for Motorola and for large projects of this size. Armand was the engineer on this project, and our goal here was to look at what you got and how can we upgrade that. Your analog system, which was originally purchased or contract with us, was about 1998. There was an upgrade done on it in like 2007. You need to go from analog to digital because we're getting at the point where we can't even get parts to fix this thing, and you're going to be going to eBay to get parts for this thing at some point. So what you got is about over 2,000 radios out there that the police and fire are using that can be upgraded. All we got to do is put software, not all, but we can put software in, digital software in them. So that's an upgrade. Then you'll need purchase about 1,000 radios for ones that can't be upgraded. You've got 6 tower sites in the county that will be upgraded with new digital base stations. And then your consoles, you got 21 or 22 consoles positions for your 911 dispatchers, which would be also new. So that's kind of the concept of the system. All pricing is based on the Mississippi state contract that is in place at the present time. So in Reader's Digest summaries, that's kind of what we're presenting to you all.
Let me ask you a quick question because I want to make sure that we answer Supervisor Calhoun's question. Another company cannot do your upgrade. They cannot flash your radios because what you're talking about is flashing radios and upgrading or upgrade to the system. So can another company, if we were to do an RFP, come in and flash and upgrade your system?
No, we got to do the flash, that part.
Okay. All right. We'll wait for the attorneys to get in.